Hello, Facebook. This is Danielle Mapes, team leader of Keller Williams Ann Arbor, and I am here today with Martin Bouma of the Bouma Group Realtors. How are you, Martin?
Doing great.
You
I'm
know,
day 3 of my 66-day challenge, so I'm feeling really confident here.
what did you pick for your 66-day challenge?
You know, it's something so basic. My 30 minutes of elliptical every single morning, 2 liters of water, and my core exercises. You know,
I have learned that that's the biggest lesson I've learned in the last 18 months is keep it simple. Keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. It's so much more executable when it's simple.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. I'm really glad. I, for one, I cleaned my office this morning, which was like, it's like a very small feat, but a huge mental feat.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I
Very
moved
much
in the
so.
middle of COVID and I moved into an office that had stuff in it already. And I just don't think I ever stopped to take the time. But my next thing is my health. So I'm very excited to get into some 66-day challenge around health.
Well, I think it's especially important in this market because a lot of us work a lot of hours right now. A lot of us get very stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I realized. My health is more important than anything, right?
Yeah, so we actually, do you remember the keynote speaker from Family Reunion, Sean Aker? We've talked
Yes.
to him a few times.
Yep.
I was talking with another realtor who is not at Keller Williams, and she was working on her own happiness project and has a colleague in another brokerage working on a happiness project. So I was like, let's all just get together.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to revive the Health and Wellness Committee here too, because that is something that with COVID, our Health and Wellness Committee was getting together, and during COVID, that's just so difficult. So I think it's time to fan the flames again because we need it.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty here. This video is going to be for consumers and also for realtors. You can like this video and add your questions and comments down below. If you want more information, feel free to visit the Facebook page Danielle Shares. We also have a YouTube channel, and Martin, you have a YouTube channel as well, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So don't forget to go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow if you want notifications for when these videos go live. We do shoot weekly, and that's so important right now. And what we're going to talk about is the market. It's really important for us to be having as many conversations as possible with realtors and with consumers, because this market is so completely unprecedented and it's changing every day and rapidly. So Martin, why don't you give us a quick, 60-second overview? What are you seeing right now that is unique to this market?
Well, what's totally unique is there are literally swaths of the city with nothing for sale. I mean, right now in Ann Arbor, between $800,000 and 1.3 million, zero for sale. I mean, who's ever heard of that, right? And so the whole thing is, how do you even price properties when there's no competition? And as a buyer, and as a buyer, buyer's agent, how do you advise your buyers to respond to when a listing comes on the market in market where there's just such a void of inventory? How do you advise your buyer, right? And those are 2 tough questions, and things that we really have to think about, right? And
well, and if I may, on that topic, I think we need to bring an appraiser in, because I was looking at my own home equity. Can you imagine a consumer trying to figure out their home value right now? It's impossible if we professionals don't even have the nuts and bolts of comp that an appraiser would use. We're kind of shooting in the dark and giving it our best guess based on what we see, but we don't have the data we used to have.
No, this is what I'm telling sellers right now. I'm saying, what sold even 3 months ago is not even a relative comp. And so one of the things as a listing agent, what I do is I'm going in and saying, hey, what did the last house sell for? Or like, how many offers? And this is the questions I ask. How many showings did you have? How many offers did you get? And did you get over list price? And I try to find out how much over list. I want to go on, find out what properties I just got under contract the last couple of weeks, what's happening there, right? Because that gives you a lot of information. So if they say the last house had 42 showings, we had 6 offers, 4 went over list price. So we know darn well that there are 5 buyers who missed out that are going to be ready to jump when we put our listing on the market, right? But what I'm also finding out now, we're seeing this a little bit. This is where the market's changing a little bit. I just had a listing in the $400,000 price point, 46 showings, and we had 6 offers, but most of the offers were right around the asking price or a little bit above with escalation clause, and not one person jumped way up here, right? So that tells me we had 5 more people who are looking for a house in that market niche. However, those 5, none of them were willing to take the big jump, right? So when you have that kind of data, you can start giving your seller some kind of advice. So you have to do a lot of work.
And it may, I mean, I think we've got a twofold possibility there. They may not be willing to go higher in price because we're hitting that pain point of buyers saying no more, no more, no more. It could also be that they know they can't compete with cash at an appraisal gap, right? If they have any kind of lack of cash in the bank to go towards that appraisal gap, they may not be even trying to shoot high.
Well, it's a combination. This is what I found also. I've had situations where at the end of the day, I get emails from agents that are saying, this is really important for listing agents. I got the impression I'm going to get 4 or 5 offers, and at the end of the day, guess what? I have 0. So I will get on the phone, I start calling these people. And this has happened now a couple times, and it's normally in the lower price points. And the agent say, Martin, it's a gorgeous house. My buyer absolutely loves it, but they don't feel they can compete because they're thinking they're going to have to write $30,000 or $40,000 over, right? And I'll just tell them, well, I'm going to be very honest. At this point, I don't have an offer. So I recommend that you write one real fast. And then I'll call a bunch of realtors, and it's amazing how many will tell me that, right? Their buyer didn't even want to compete. And especially if you push the price, if you've pushed it a little bit, and then on top of that, they got to go what they think in their mind, $30,000 or $40,000 over. So many times I'm able to get people to then write offers, right? Because it's more reasonable. As a buyer's agent, this is where a lot of buyer's agents really fail. They don't call me, right? If I was writing an offer in this marketplace, believe me, I would call the listing agent. I have some agents who they're relentless. Martin, what is it going to take? If I write this, well, you know what I mean? And they're doing everything in their power to try to find out what they have to do for their buyer. And they say, Mark, what do I have to make this as delicious as possible? But it's amazing how many buyer's agents send me an offer. They don't even call me.
They don't call, yeah.
They don't even call me to find out how many offers there are. They don't even call me to find out if it's under contract, right? And so that's where a lot of buyer's agents really drop the ball.
Well, and your buyer's agent, one of your buyer's agent, Trevor McElwain, you were just telling me he had a banner month. I'm assuming he's making that call.
Oh, Trevor's all over it. No, Trevor, he wrote, I want to say 7. I think he did put his 8th deal together for the month of March. So I don't even want to hear that, you can't get it. Now, my other buyer's agents did pretty good, did really well also. So, but no, Trevor, I mean, they're very good. They call the agents. They know how to advise their buyers, right? They're telling the buyers that they've got to be prepared for appraisal gap coverage. They got to be willing to give a lot of times free rent backs, so he finds out what's most desirable for that seller and he performs on that, right?
Well, and just so you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys already have something like this put together. Your agents are so well trained, but we had a team meeting here in the market center and we went through the purchase agreement and we outlined all the ways in the standard purchase agreement that you can sweeten the deal. And then we went through every clause that our agents are seeing out there in the field right now that goes in the other section. And we did pros and cons and broker preferred language. And we're going to put together a cheat sheet for anyone who's writing offers. Yeah, because, and this is, you and I were talking about it last week. How many agents are out there taking their lead generating for their clients, they're signing their clients, they're taking their clients out on showings. And then when it comes to writing the offer, they don't ask the question, they don't make the call, and they don't put that kind of language to sweeten the deal into the PA. And it's just a lot of wasted energy. So as much as we can work with other realtors in the area to inform them of what it's taking, we all benefit. Yeah.
Well, another thing as a listing agent, now it's on both sides here. There are agents out there who will write an appraisal gap, right? I've had it happen a couple times where when I really do the research on their assets, they have enough money for their down payment. Let's say, take an example, $400,000 house, 20% down. They've got the 80 grand, but they wrote over lists, let's say 50 grand over, right? They say they're gonna cover the appraisal gap. They don't have the 50,000, right? And then I'll talk to the agent. They say, well, Martin, it's gonna appraise. I'm going, okay, I hope it does, but is that the advice you're giving your buyer? And so as a listing agent, you want to make sure that when there's appraisal gaps, you make sure that they have the funds, because there are agents out there who are literally telling their buyer, don't worry about it because it's going to appraise.
Well, I know a lot of listing agents use cover sheets, and I don't know if you guys use
We do, yeah.
But you know, it's just like I was listening to you and Linda Lombardini from Trillium speak recently with each other, and she was, you know, or it may have been you that said it, that you want to ask, has your buyer seen the house? Has your buyer toured the home?
Absolutely.
You know, please remember to, you know, attach proof of funds either from the client themselves or from the lender, to verify that they've got the assets to go forward with the purchase agreement. And if we could just standardize some of the stuff there, like you could even add there, please inquire with listing agent, you know, prior to submitting.
Well, it's just like we have instructions. You know, we have a cover sheet with instructions. I will always request 2% earnest money. I always put in attorney approval for my seller. So if you're writing offers on my houses, I would recommend you do that, because if not, you're inviting a counter. So a smart buyer's agent is going to find out exactly what that seller wants, so you don't have to go back and forth, right? Because every time you counter, it opens it up.
Well, yeah, and if you know, if you're going to counter, you might as well change the price or the terms. You're countering anyways.
Well, because other offers can come in, but you know, you raised a really good point, because I do now ask, has your buyer seen it? Because there have been situations where they don't. Right, and they're not going to tell me. But
strangely enough, I was just reading from Michigan Association of Realtors, and what they're seeing right now is they're seeing an amount of buyers, a significant amount of buyers, to cause noise, putting contracts in on 2 homes at once.
Yeah,
and you know, so that would be another question: does your client have an offer on another house?
You know, I've not experienced that in a long time. Sometimes you just get an agent who doesn't know what they're doing. You know. But I have not experienced that in a long time. So, but you know what? That's a good question to ask, because the bottom line is, people say, well, then they might, you know, end up buying 2 houses. Well, they can get out of it with contingencies, right? And so it's not.
Yeah, and you don't want to be when they burn with contingencies.
That's actually, you know, you just raised a good point. I'm going to add that to my list, just to be, you know, to absolutely cover, you know.
Well, people are desperate right now, and so you know, the MAR put out this 4-page brief, and we're going to attach it to the sheet that we're going to be making out. They put out a 4-page brief on, you know, these are the things we're seeing happening right now, and this is why you shouldn't do it. Like, even if you're desperate, don't do it.
Right. Now, another advice, what I'll tell you that has been working very well, there are agents who are writing offers, buyer's agents, and they're picking up seller closing costs, right? So I've even seen it now, I'm aware of twice now, where the buyer actually picked up not just their transfer taxes and title insurance, but even the commission.
Yeah, that was on the 4-page brief from MAR. So it is happening. It is absolutely happening.
So
Martin, I want to ask you something though. Right now, you've got a lot of sellers, and it's not that they're not willing to sell. It's just they have some sort of condition holding them back from selling right now. Can we talk a little bit about that for anyone who may be listening that is thinking about selling their home and something's holding them back? You know, what kind of advice would you give them?
You know, well, like I said, if I look at entire market niches, there's nothing for sale. Like I right now have got 4 or 5 listings in the $1 million price point in the market niches I work that are sitting vacant. And I'm like, you guys, and it's like, this is the most amazing time to put it on the market. And it's just really interesting why I don't understand what's going on. But there are sellers, some people are people that are living in the houses. They don't want to put it on the market right now because they don't want to move now, right? They want to move in the summer, and they're afraid if they put it on the market right now, it's going to sell right away. And I said, well, it will, but we'll do a rent back. But, you know, they don't like the uncertainty of that. Some sellers, I'm starting to hear this now, where they're saying, you know what, I just refinanced my house a year ago at 2.5% interest rate. If I buy a new house, I'm buying something at 5% or 4%, you know what I mean? Like, so they start thinking that way, right? Some people simply don't have a house to go to. And so, what we're doing is I'm prospecting an awful lot, and we're doing the golden letters very successfully. And
Good.
I'm finding properties for people. And what's happening is a lot of the people that we're hearing from the golden letters, they don't necessarily want to move right now, but they're telling me, Martin, if you have a buyer and they're willing to pay this, bring them on, right? And so we're sort of almost creating this off-market MLS within our office, right? And we'll even tell them, listen, you guys, you get your maximum price if you go into the MLS, right? But they're not interested in that. They just said, listen, I don't want all the hassles of that, but I'm telling you, this is what I'm happy with. And guess what? Because of what the market's done, a lot of their prices, what they're asking for, are not out of line. And so we're doing a lot of that kind of work, right? Where we're making these phone calls and trying to dig up properties for our clients.
Well, I can tell you that, obviously for clear cooperation and consumer protection, the National Association of Realtors is a really hard line on pocket listings, right? We have to inform that client that they're going to get the best price if they list in the MLS. But this is an undercurrent that is swelling and it's building, and we can't just put our heads in the sand. If consumers don't want to list, we have to have a viable option for them. And so one of the things that LaTanya and I, she's our broker, one of the things we're working on is that certification process where it says, seller certified. My realtor has advised me the following. I still want to.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we tell them point blank, you get maximum. It's interesting what we've learned through all these iBuyer programs and stuff like that, right? Price isn't everything. Convenience, it means a lot to people also. They'll even take a discount for it, right? These people aren't asking for a discount. They're asking crazy, they want crazy prices, but guess what? They're actually going to get them. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, there has to be total full disclosure, about, and believe me, that's, yeah.
Do you ever work with anyone doing a bridge loan for those sellers who they want to sell, but they're worried it's going to sell right away and they won't have a house? Have you guys done a lot of bridge loans?
You know what? We haven't. Most of our clients can afford, if they really want to. But bridge loans, no, I'm not seeing people do bridge loans.
The one thing I've seen it do is, and I have a client that did a bridge loan successfully, and the one thing I've seen it do is it takes away the mental block for them of, now they can go with the home purchase first. They can lead with the home purchase, and their anxiety is not around selling. It's around where they're going to go and the home purchase. So if they can lead with that and then worry about selling the home, I think it will help folks lessen the anxiety around selling in this market.
Especially now, right?
Yeah, this market particularly.
Because this market, like literally every listing we have sells, right? It's and if it doesn't, there's a big problem.
Yeah, you got an issue. Well, Martin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, whether it's to consumers or other realtors. It's an absolute blessing and privilege for us to have this kind of market update. You are one of the premier listing and selling agents in the area, so you have the most data. And I just want to thank you for doing us the favor of catching us up and letting us know what's going on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Martin, how can people get a hold of you if they'd like more information on buying, selling, or getting into real estate?
They can call me at the office here at 734-761-3060.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Again, this is Danielle Mapes, team leader of Keller Williams Ann Arbor. You can reach me on my cell 310-748-7442. You can like this video, share it with anyone that you think it might benefit. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube at Danielle Shares. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
All right. See you later. Hey, bye-bye.
Bye.